The Human-AI Paradox, Strategic Tensions in Technology Transformation Abstract. This article examines the emerging pattern of organizations simultaneously announcing major workforce reductions while significantly investing in artificial intelligence technologies. Drawing on organizational behavior research, technological adoption frameworks, and strategic management literature, it explores the tensions between AI-driven transformation and human capital preservation. The analysis reveals that while AI adoption often triggers restructuring, organizations that approach AI as a complement to human capabilities rather than a substitute tend to achieve more sustainable outcomes. The article presents evidence-based approaches for integrating AI strategically while preserving institutional knowledge and organizational culture. It concludes with recommendations for creating AI adoption frameworks that enhance rather than diminish human potential, supporting long-term organizational resilience and competitive advantage. When Accenture announced 11,000 job cuts while simultaneously investing $865 million in artificial intelligence, it crystallized a troubling pattern in how organizations are approaching the AI revolution. This seeming contradiction, cutting human capital while heavily investing in technology, raises fundamental questions about how leaders conceptualize the relationship between technology and human work. Are we witnessing a wave of genuine transformation, or simply cost-cutting dressed as innovation? The stakes of this question extend far beyond quarterly earnings calls. How organizations navigate AI adoption will determine not just their competitive positioning, but their cultural integrity, institutional knowledge preservation, and long-term resilience. As AI capabilities rapidly advance, executives face mounting pressure to demonstrate they are keeping pace with technological change. Yet the rush to adopt AI is increasingly accompanied by significant workforce reductions, suggesting many organizations view AI primarily as a labor replacement technology rather than a capability enhancement tool. This article examines the research on sustainable technology adoption, explores the organizational consequences of different AI implementation approaches, and offers evidence-based strategies for leaders seeking to harness AI's potential without sacrificing the human capabilities that drive long-term organizational success. The AI adoption landscape. Defining AI adoption in the organizational context. AI adoption refers to the integration of artificial intelligence technologies, including machine learning, natural language processing, computer vision, and other autonomous or semi-autonomous systems, into an organization's operations, service delivery, and decision-making processes. Unlike previous waves of technology adoption, AI implementation often touches core cognitive work previously believed to be exclusively human domain, including analysis, judgment, creativity, and communication. Reich and Krakowski. 2021. This distinction is crucial because it helps explain the dramatic workforce restructuring often accompanying AI investments. When organizations view AI primarily as a substitute for human cognition rather than a complement to it, the natural conclusion is that workforce reductions represent an inevitable efficiency gain. However, this perspective often overlooks the complex ways human and machine intelligence can work together to create value beyond what either could achieve independently. Prevalence, drivers, and distribution of AI-related restructuring. The pattern exemplified by Accenture is becoming increasingly common. A 2023 survey by PwC found that 60% of organizations implementing significant AI initiatives also undertook workforce restructuring in the same fiscal year. PwC. 2023. The professional services sector leads this trend, followed by financial services, technology, and healthcare. Several factors drive this convergence of AI investment and workforce reduction. Shareholder expectations for immediate returns on technology investments, pressure to demonstrate AI readiness to markets and competitors, the substantial costs of AI implementation creating pressure to offset expenses, genuine redundancies created when certain tasks become automatable, misalignment between existing workforce skills and new technical requirements. However, Research suggests considerable variation in how organizations approach this transition. For example, a study by Brynjolfsson and McAfee, 2022, found that organizations emphasizing complementarity between human and AI capabilities were more likely to maintain or grow their workforce during AI implementation compared to those pursuing primarily substitution strategies. Organizational and individual consequences of AI-driven restructuring. Organizational performance impacts. The evidence on organizational performance following AI-driven restructuring presents a nuanced picture. In the short term, organizations often realize immediate cost savings and efficiency gains. A study by Davenport and Ronanke, 2018, found that organizations implementing AI primarily for cost reduction achieved an average 15% decrease in operating expenses within the first year. However, longer-term performance metrics tell a more complex story. Organizations that approach AI primarily as a cost reduction mechanism frequently experience knowledge loss acceleration when experienced employees depart. They take with them contextual understanding, informal processes, and relationship networks that often prove difficult to document or replace. Research by DeLong, 2004, found that organizations typically underestimate knowledge loss costs by 30 to 50%. With impacts manifesting 12 to 24 months after restructuring. Cultural disruption, mass layoffs concurrent with technology investment can create what Sutton, 2009, calls organizational trauma, persistent feelings of insecurity and distrust that undermine collaboration, innovation, and organizational commitment among remaining employees. Implementation barriers. Paradoxically, aggressive workforce reductions can impede successful AI implementation. A study by Fountain et al. 2019 found that insufficient user adoption and lack of talent were among the top 3 barriers to successful AI implementation. Issues that can be exacerbated by workforce reductions. Strategic inflexibility. Heavy investment in current AI capabilities while reducing human capacity can create what Christensen, 1997, termed the innovator's dilemma, difficulty adapting to subsequent technological shifts or market changes that require human creativity and adaptation. Conversely, organizations that approach AI as an augmentation of human capabilities rather than a replacement typically experience different outcomes. Research by Davenport and Kirby, 2016, found that augmentation-focused implementations realized higher long-term return on AI investments compared to replacement-focused implementations. Individual well-being and stakeholder impacts for individuals within organizations undergoing AI-driven restructuring. The consequences can be profound. Psychological contract violation, when organizations simultaneously invest in technology while cutting jobs. Remaining employees often experience what Morrison and Robinson, 1997, describe as psychological contract breach, a perception that implicit commitments to employees have been violated. This frequently leads to reduced trust, diminished organizational citizenship behaviors, and increased turnover intentions. Skill invalidation anxiety. Even employees who remain often experience what Petriglieri, 2011, calls identity threat, fear that their professional capabilities and experience are being devalued or rendered obsolete. This anxiety can paradoxically reduce the very adaptability organizations need during technological transitions. Polarization of workforce benefits. AI-driven restructuring often disproportionately impacts mid-level knowledge workers, creating what some researchers call a hollowing out effect, Orta. 2015. This can exacerbate organizational inequality, with benefits flowing primarily to senior executives and technical specialists while creating precarity for others. For organizational stakeholders beyond employees, AI-driven restructuring also creates consequences. Customers may experience service disruptions when institutional knowledge is lost, while communities may face economic impacts from concentrated job losses. The reputational effects can be substantial. Research by Tonello, 2020, found that companies announcing significant layoffs typically experience negative market reactions, with particularly strong effects when technology investments are announced simultaneously. Evidence-based organizational responses. Human-centered AI implementation frameworks. Organizations that successfully integrate AI while preserving human capabilities typically employ structured frameworks that place human considerations at the center of implementation decisions. Define augmentation rather than automation as the primary goal. Conduct work analysis to identify task combinations rather than role elimination. Involve frontline employees in AI use case identification and prioritization. Establish ethical boundaries for AI implementation decisions. IBM's AI Ethics Board approach has become a cornerstone of the company's technology development process. The company established cross-functional councils that review all significant AI implementations, with explicit criteria for evaluating both technical performance and human impact. This approach has allowed IBM to identify opportunities where AI can assume routine tasks while redirecting human attention to higher-value activities. Between 2018-2022, IBM redeployed over 30% of potentially displaced workers to new roles created by AI implementation, primarily in customer experience design, ethical oversight, and specialized problem-solving. Ganoli and Feinzig. 2020. Strategic workforce evolution. Rather than viewing workforce adjustment as a one-time cost reduction exercise, successful organizations approach talent management as a continuous evolution aligned with technological capabilities. Analyze skill adjacencies to identify retraining pathways for at-risk roles. Develop transitional job categories that combine institutional knowledge with new technical skills. Create knowledge preservation processes before reducing headcount. Implement phased transitions that allow for knowledge transfer and system stabilization. MasterCard developed a comprehensive capability bridge program when implementing machine learning systems across its fraud detection operations. Rather than immediately replacing fraud analysts, the company created hybrid roles where experienced analysts worked alongside AI systems, refining algorithms and handling complex exceptions. This approach preserved crucial institutional knowledge while gradually evolving role requirements. The program enabled MasterCard to reduce false positives by 18% beyond what either human analysts or AI systems could achieve independently. MasterCard. 2021. Transparent change communication. Research consistently shows that how organizations communicate about AI implementation significantly impacts employee responses and implementation success. Articulate a clear vision linking AI adoption to organizational purpose beyond cost reduction. Acknowledge the legitimate concerns and emotional responses to technological change. Provide specific, actionable information about how roles will evolve rather than generic reassurances. Establish two-way communication channels that allow employees to shape implementation decisions. Microsoft's approach to introducing AI tools within its own professional services operations demonstrates effective change communication. The company began by explicitly acknowledging that AI would change how work was performed, but positioned these changes as freeing employees from routine tasks rather than eliminating their roles. Microsoft created AI Impact workshops where teams could experiment with new technologies, identify potential applications, and express concerns about implementation. This collaborative approach led to employee-generated use cases that the company might not have identified through top-down implementation. Microsoft. 2022. Ethical governance mechanisms. Organizations successful at balancing AI implementation with human considerations establish explicit governance structures to guide decisions about technology deployment and workforce impacts. Create clear decision principles that balance efficiency with human dignity and organizational values. Establish independent oversight of AI implementation decisions with diverse stakeholder representation. Develop metrics that capture both financial and human impacts of technology decisions. Implement regular review cycles to assess unintended consequences of AI deployment. Salesforce established a formal AI Ethics Council with representatives from technical teams, HR, customer advocacy, and external ethics experts. The Council reviews all significant AI implementations against a published framework that explicitly includes workforce impact considerations. This approach led Salesforce to modify several planned implementations, including a customer service AI system that was redesigned to support rather than replace service representatives. Salesforce 2021. Building long-term AI-human integration capability. Adaptive organizational learning systems. Organizations that thrive through technological transitions develop systematic approaches to continuous learning that keep pace with technological evolution while preserving core institutional knowledge. Adaptive learning systems include several key elements. Knowledge articulation processes that systematically document tacit knowledge before it's lost. Rapid experimentation frameworks for testing human-AI collaboration models. Cross-functional learning communities that share implementation insights across organizational boundaries. Feedback mechanisms that capture both technical performance and human experience data. JP Chase's AI Solutions Lab exemplifies this approach, bringing together experienced financial advisors, data scientists, and customer experience designers to develop AI applications that enhance rather than replace human judgment. The lab operates on 6-week innovation cycles, rapidly prototyping solutions and testing them with frontline employees before wider implementation. This iterative approach has allowed the organization to develop AI applications that augment human capabilities in complex client interactions while still achieving efficiency goals. JP Chase 2021. Balanced value measurement. Organizations that successfully navigate AI transformation expand how they measure organizational performance beyond immediate cost reductions and efficiency metrics. Key approaches include multi-horizon metrics that balance short-term efficiency gains against long-term capability development. Knowledge retention indicators that track preservation of critical institutional knowledge. Innovation capability measures that assess organizational capacity for future adaptation. Trust and commitment metrics among remaining employees. Following restructuring, Unilever developed a comprehensive, sustainable technology adoption scorecard that explicitly tracks both efficiency gains from AI implementation and indicators of organizational health. The scorecard includes metrics for knowledge preservation, employee perception of technological change, and capacity for future innovation. This balanced approach to measurement has enabled Unilever to achieve significant efficiency gains from AI implementation while maintaining high employee engagement. Unilever 2022. Ethical leadership development. Perhaps most fundamentally, organizations that successfully navigate AI transformations invest in developing leaders capable of making complex ethical judgments about the relationship between technology and human work. Key development priorities include ethical reasoning frameworks for technology implementation decisions, long-term strategic thinking that balances immediate returns against future capabilities, empathetic change leadership skills for guiding organizations through uncertainty, systems thinking capabilities that recognize the interconnection between technology, culture, and human capital. Accenture itself has begun addressing these needs through its Responsible AI Leadership program, which trains senior leaders in ethical frameworks for AI implementation decisions. The program specifically addresses the tensions between cost optimization and human capital preservation, encouraging leaders to view this as a strategic polarity to be managed rather than a simple efficiency equation. Accenture 2022. Conclusion: the pattern of simultaneous AI investment and workforce reduction represents a critical strategic choice point for organizations. The evidence suggests that while this approach may yield short-term efficiency gains, it frequently undermines the very capabilities organizations need to thrive in an AI-transformed future: adaptability, institutional knowledge, trust, and capacity for continued innovation. Organizations that approach AI as primarily a complement to human capabilities rather than a substitute for them tend to achieve more sustainable outcomes. This complementary approach doesn't mean avoiding workforce evolution or ignoring efficiency opportunities. Rather, it means approaching these changes with a commitment to preserving human dignity, institutional knowledge, and organizational culture through the transition. The most successful organizations establish clear ethical frameworks for AI implementation decisions, invest in adaptive learning systems, communicate transparently about technological change, and develop leaders capable of making complex judgments about the relationship between technology and human work. These approaches position them to realize efficiency gains while maintaining the human capabilities necessary for long-term resilience and competitive advantage. As AI capabilities continue to advance, the question is not whether organizations will transform, but how they will manage that transformation. Those that view employees primarily as costs to be eliminated will likely achieve short-term efficiency at the expense of long-term capability. Those that view employees as partners in transformation, carriers of institutional knowledge, sources of innovation, and essential components of organizational culture, more likely to emerge from the AI revolution stronger, more resilient, and better positioned for sustainable success.